And for the next presentation, we are joined by Initiator Pharma and CEO Claus Olesen. Welcome, Claus.
Thank you very much. Initiator Pharma is a clinical stage pharma company. We develop innovative drugs for significant unmet medical needs within the peripheral and the central nervous system. It is my pleasure today to give an update of the stuff that we're doing in Initiator Pharma. My name is Claus Olesen. I'm the founder and have been the CEO of the company ever since its inception back in 2017. So the usual disclaimer and going into what really matters. What is it actually we do? Well, we are delivering safe and effective monoamine modulation therapeutics for patients in need. We have 3 clinical programs in pain and sexual dysfunctions. We have clinical proof of concept data in 2 of the programs, and actually we have the next clinical readout coming up at the end of Q2 of this year, so very soon and very imminent. So Initiator Pharma is a company, we're headquartered in Copenhagen, and what's really important about this company, we actually fully finance for all the clinical stuff that we are doing now, all the readouts that we have promised, all the way into 24 and actually also beyond 24. We are listed on first North Stock Exchange in Stockholm and ever since 2001. We have about 4,000 shareholders and we have cornerstone shareholders in Adrigo and Link. So we are a very company dedicated to deliver results for our shareholders and also always thinking about how do we utilize the money best. And that you can see in the low burn we are having as a company. So our clinical stage pipeline consists of multiple assets. So here we are showing the overview of what we have. IP 2015 is actually used in what we call organic erectile dysfunction. That's a phase 2b study that I'll get back to. But the same active pharmaceutical ingredient, IP 2015, is also used in our pain setting, where we recently demonstrated efficacy in what we call a pain challenge model. But I'll not talk more about this today. Today I will focus on the erectile dysfunction. And then the program, the IP 2018, within what we call psychogenic ED, which is going to read out and we're going to get data at the end of this quarter and in the phase 2b study that I'll allude to a little bit further in this discussion here. So we have a proprietary clinical stage pipeline with multiple assets targeting significant unmet medical needs. So why is the modulation of monoamines of relevance for Initiator Pharma, but even more important, why is it relevant for patients? Well, monoamines are signal molecules that are used to signal involved in a lot of cascades and a lot of signaling involved in emotion, arousal, mood, sexual functions, and memory. It's a validated technology. It's been used for many years to treat depression and pain. But a lot of these approved medications for these things have primarily focused on what we call serotonin and norepinephrine, so some of the monoamine neurotransmitters. And actually too high levels of these can give significant undesirable side effects, such as sexual dysfunctions, toxicity in some of the cases, and also cardiovascular complications. So what we are advancing in Initiator Pharma is the second generation of monoamine modulators, where we instead of focusing on serotonin and norepinephrine, we actually have a primary focus on dopamine and the beneficial effects of dopamine. Erectile dysfunction is a really big indication. We see that more than 400 million patients will suffer from this in 2025. And what we are targeting here, we're actually targeting the patients that do not respond to the current standard of care. So we are developing medications for the people that do not respond to the current therapies out there. So how do we treat the patients today? Well, when you go in and you suffer from erectile dysfunction, you go to the doctor and they will normally prescribe you the first line of medication, the PDE5 inhibitors, also known under the trade names of Viagra and Cialis. In some cases, these will work very nicely and you just go for a follow-up and you can continue getting your prescriptions. In some cases, we don't have a good effect of these compounds, and you go back and actually you try to have a higher dose of the PDE5 inhibitor, or try one of the other products, or try a combination of those. But they are all working with the same mechanism of action. So what we call the MOA is the same for all the PDE5 drugs. But we also know that about 35% of ED patients do not respond to this first line of medication. So these patients we are needing to treat. And we see in specific segments, such as people suffering from diabetes, this non-responder rate increases to 50%. So what can we do here? Well, what we can do is we can try to look at what else can we treat them with. We can also give them psychosexual therapy. We can try to change their lifestyle modifications and educate them on the use of PDE5s, making sure that they're taking them in the right fashion. But if there is no response, there's only one option, and that's actually going in with injectables. So injectables, when you inject yourself directly in the penis or insert a small tablet in the urine tract of the penis. And here you can get what we call a stimulation independent, or an erection independent of stimulation. So an erection, you can say that is there, but it's not happening for natural causes. So we actually see that there's a significant unmet medical need within these non-responders or patients that do not tolerate the PDE5 inhibitors in the market today. So the natural erection function is driven by stimulation. And the stimulation is that you see something nice, you're being touched, or you smell something nice, or you remember something nice. All this is processed into the brain, and it causes a massive release of dopamine. You can say the molecule that's telling you something's nice going to happen, you're expecting something nice. This is actually transmitted, this signal of dopamine, down through the spinal cords and leads to a production of nitric oxide that causes the dilation of the blood arteries. A dilation means opening up, and more blood can flow to the penile tissue, and thereby you get the erection. So what is it actually we do in this, you can say, with our drug? Well, it's not only us that knows that dopamine is important. This has actually been shown from other companies that previously have worked in the space of erectile dysfunction, developing, you can say, dopamine-like molecules to support this. And they have demonstrated that actually it works. However, they did not have a molecule that was safe to administrate. And that is exactly what we have in Initiator Pharma. On the more molecular level of what is actually going on, here I depicted a neuron in the brain, and upon the stimulation, we actually see there's release of dopamine into the synaptic cleft of the neurons, binding to the presynaptic receptors, and thereby starting the signal that leads to the production of nitric oxide, leading to this dilation. The way the signal is terminated again is by a reuptake of dopamine back into the neuron, so it's ready for the next excitation. And this transporter is doing that. We can actually inhibit with our compounds both the 2015 and the 2018. They have different, you can say, not MOAs, but they have different affinities for the different reuptake transporters. And this is also why we see them being advanced for the two indications that we're pursuing. So there's organic and the psychogenic erectile dysfunction. So again, what we are doing with the molecules we're actually strengthening the natural erection response in these patients, making sure that we actually get an erection that is dependent on being stimulated, something that's really nice for everyone. So what is going on? Well, we have two ongoing clinical trials in erectile dysfunction, and they're going to read out both in 2023. And the first one we talk about today is actually the phase 2A study in psychogenic ED, where we have recruited 24 patients, we have finished dosing them, and we are now awaiting the data that should come at the end of this quarter, so very imminent. Next for this study, of course, based on the data, we are going to design a phase 2B and finding out what is the right way to continue development on this. Of course, we have many options available to us at this time, and we have planned many ways to do this, but it all depends on the data we're going to see in the phase 2A in very imminent time here. So looking forward to see these results. And also again, remember, this is the first time we ever developed a medication for this segment of patients. So this is a proof of concept study where we go out and we look at many parameters. I'll get back to some of these at the next slide. In addition to that, we have the phase 2B study ongoing in 120 patients, which is the organic erectile dysfunction, which we call the intercourse study. And that one we are recruiting very well into, and we also expect to finish this study on time as previously announced. So you can say, what are we doing? Well, we are on the trajectory right now to change the paradigm for these ED non-responders, or the ones who do not tolerate the current therapy. So this is unique, and we are right there when we starting to get really exciting data in these programs. So just a little bit on the 2018 program in psychogenic ED. Again, remember this is a 3-way crossover study, high and low dose of 2018, and then a placebo. In this study, we're using the Regiscan apparatus. So here we are measuring on erection upon stimulation with an erotic movie. So you can say this is a similar study that we previously have shown data for with the 2015 program in organic erectile dysfunction. So we are looking forward to see the results here, and we're looking forward to interpret the outcome of these and finding out how do we actually develop the best trial going forward to help these patients in need. So really exciting times in the next couple of weeks, or next up to 5 weeks here. So turning to the 2015 program in the organic ED, what is it we are looking at? Remember again here, we have shown that this actually works in a phase 2A study, so again a RegScan study, where we in 12 patients saw 25% responder rates in what we call moderate to severe ED patients. So here we have already shown that this actually works, and that's why we brought it into the phase 2B study that I'm going to present in a minute. And in the 2018, this is the first time we tested, but we are really, from the animal data we have done, we are really excited about showing the results coming out of this. So the study that we have ongoing right now in the 2015, in the phase 2B study, is conducted at 7 sites in the UK. And here again, it's the 3-arm study. It's not a crossover, so there's 3 independent arms with 40 patients in each. So we have a high and a low dose of IP 2015, and then we have the placebo control group. So what we are working with here is actually a study that is actually mimicking what we want to do in the pivotal phase 3 trial for the registration of the drug when we need to go to the market. And what is that? Well, we are going in and we are saying, okay, we try to use this as an on-demand. So the patient goes in and they actually administrated the compound in 4 subsequent weeks. So we get 4 dosing into this, and then they go into a post-trial visit and we follow up. We do multiple things in these clinical studies here. First of all, of course, it is a phase 2 study, so we still look at safety and tolerability and erectile dysfunction scores, which is the clinical endpoint for a later on pivotal trial. We also look at semen assessment and other PK/PD in the subgroups, trying to make sure that all the data we have, we can actually design the best possible way to go into a phase 3 study later on. So why will Initiator Pharma succeed? Well, we have multiple short-term upcoming value inflection points. We are maximizing the value of our very safe candidates that has shown broad clinical utility. We are targeting significant unmet medical needs in very commercial attractive markets. The financing is in place, so we don't need to raise money. We can complete all this and go forward. And then it's actually a very attractive risk-reward profile. We are working with validated drug targets with validated diseases and validated clinical endpoints. So this is why we will succeed. Thank you very much for your attention.
So, Claus, it seems to be a countdown to the readouts in these clinical trials. How do you prepare as a company for that?
You can say we've known for a long time what the endpoints are going to be. So, of course, we have when we designed the trial, everything actually goes into the filing, and you can say you program the whole analysis of the data that's going to come out. So that has actually been done even before we started the trial. So when the protocols were closed down, it comes out into these, and then it's all processed. And then we get, you can say, final numbers. But it's not just numbers on one page. It's many, many hundreds of pages that is getting out. But we know what it is. And then there's a specific group that sits down and evaluates these data. And then, of course, within the MAR rules, it publishes as fast as we can the results of the study. But it's not a trivial study. It's not a yes and no. I think we have seen that before also in the phase 2A study. There's a lot of evaluations. We have many parameters that we are measuring on. And of course, all these can also give us input to the future development of the drug candidate.
And if we look beyond the results and to the market, it's a big market, but with some quite established treatments. What is the competitive situation like? You can say the competitive space, of course, within ED in general is, of course, completely dominated by the PD-5 inhibitors. But we are actually aiming with our 2 drug candidates to go out and treat patients that do not respond or cannot tolerate the current therapies. And of course, that depends on if you are taking all the blood pressure lowering medications. A PD-5 inhibitor on top is not a good thing. And there's many, many other of these patients that do not tolerate or do not respond. So you can say, so we are in a unique position developing drugs actually for the 30 to 35% of the patient not responding. And this gives us a very unique position because we are the first drug for treating these patients that is still, strengthening the natural erection response. So it's not an injectable, it's an oral tablet that you take on demand when you want to be assisted in having an erection. So I see us as a very novel and in a very, very solid space going forward commercially. I was curious about perhaps a stigma around these issues. Do you find that people are talking more about this? Is it easier to recruit patients than maybe it would have been in the past to this sort of study? Yeah, I think that there's, of course, with the PD5 and Viagra in the States, where they completely, made a new paradigm change in this treatment and start talking about it. Actually, it's not been such a difficult talking about ED. That's something that a lot of men are willing to admit, or at least go to clinical sites and get help. I think in our trials, of course, we have been significantly hindered by the COVID situation, where we've seen delays that because of it's difficult to recruit patients, and being involved in clinical trials in hospitals during COVID was also nerve-wracking for some. So I see that in general, people are accepting that they can suffer from these things and they want to do something about it. They want to maintain their quality of life. And we see in studies that men are, and also women are sexually active for longer. So where you can say 25, 30 years ago, they stopped when they were in the late 50s. Now we see them being active all the way up into the 70s. And of course, one of the biggest denominators for getting ED is actually age. So of course, we'll see more patients and people are willing to get help with this to maintain their quality of life.
And finally, a classic question. If you were to come back here in a year, where would you hope that Initiator Pharma is then?
Yeah, I hope we stand with 2 really good clinical readouts. So now we have one coming in at the end of this quarter, and then we had the other one coming towards the end of the year. And this is really, really exciting. This is what we have been working for. This is what, ever since the inception of the company, we wanted to deliver clinical results. We have shown the first sign in the 2015 in the phase 2A that actually works in these patients, and now we're expanding the number and getting more patients in with a placebo control as well. So we're really excited with this. So I see us as a company developing with positive results, continuing the development of our drug candidates, and also being in a position to find partners to bring this forward to the market.
Well, I will hope to see you here again, and Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much for hosting us. It's been a privilege.